Hey guys, welcome back to the Harbor Site. This is kind of a special episode. We're not even going to give it a number, but I have been getting bombarded with guys in the military, nurses, all kinds of people talking about the juice and it being federally mandated. So I wanted to have a conversation about this on where I think it is, and kind of to be able to offer some insight. It probably won't be any actual hard things to do, but it's our opinion based, and at least have the conversation of, hey, there's this thing out there, and the federal government is forcing individuals to get the juice, and what to do about it, because there's a lot of people out there torn, right? And so I wanted to bring on my good friend, Mr. Cody Alford. Oh, Master Sergeant Cody Alford.
Yeah.
How does that feel to hear that title again?
Ugh,
Yeah, right.
creepy.
Creepy. Anyways, it's because it feels like it's not even you anymore, right? That's kind of the way it works.
Yeah, I feel much freer from
Yeah.
not having all those titles.
Yeah. So it's Cody from We Defy the Norm. How does that sound?
Me. I like that. It's catchier.
So honestly, man, I feel like we were, when we served, we served. I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like it's a bad time, but also it was a great time. It was also a great time, and I don't regret my service, and I know you don't. I know you don't either. It's a huge part of our life, but man, what a different time to serve.
Super different time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so just some facts. Right now they're saying November 8th. You have to get the juice by November 8th. And then by November 9th is disciplinary actions. And I think this falls in line federally wide. So that would include the military. So a lot of people are hitting me up and going, man, what do? I don't want to do it, but I really want to serve. And I'm like, man, this is what a hard thing to do. And just so you know, I don't know how I'm sure you're talking to a bunch of dudes here. There's actually several people here that are officers are a little bit easier because they can just resign. But we're getting some guys that are 12, 13 years, really, really, like, not the shitty officers that you and I know, like really solid officers in the command that are like, I got to resign. And what a tragedy, man. Anyways.
Yep.
Before we get into too much, your initial thoughts, man. I know you've shared some stuff.
I mean, at the end of the day, people need to do what's best for them. I think there's a lot of this like confliction of, I want to serve, but people are putting their level of serving in such a small funnel, right? Yeah. Such a small speck of possibilities. And I do my best, and hey, dude, I wouldn't do that stuff. It doesn't matter what I would do because I'm not there. Right. All I know is I would be a felon.
You're done.
If that's what it took.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm not carrying that load anymore. But for the men and women that are out there carrying that load, carrying that burden of like, what do I do? I literally just try to like give yourself the power to make a decision, because it has to come more from like, what do you believe? Because if you buckle, the day you start buckling for your beliefs now,
oh, it's creep, right? It's like, same thing as like mission creep. It's just you give a little bit and then it doesn't stop, man. You're going to take a little bit more and then take a little bit more. And then at what point, and the one thing, and just so that we're for the record, like, I'm not anti-juice or for juice or anything like that. I'm for your personal choice, right? Like that's, it has to be, right? Like that's what we serve for. Yeah. We serve for your choice to choose to be whatever, color unicorn that you want to be.
Truth.
So that does kind of concern me. Granted, we were, I think you were in the same time as me when the anthrax stuff came out, early 2000s, right?
Yep.
And I mean, I got that.
Yep.
I did, and it really was back then. Anthrax bombs and all kinds of stuff. We didn't really know, and I don't remember how many I got, but it was several. And
the thing is, we weren't educated then.
No, I wouldn't get them now. I totally wouldn't get them now, but I did then. But the thing is, it comes down to your personal choice. And that's where I started having a problem with this is they're not giving people choice, and they're even pushing back on, if there's personal exemptions in religion and legally, right? I think there is some legal approaches that you can take, but it doesn't seem that those are really working. It doesn't seem that they're even given those credit.
You know why? Because when you go to push against the grain, you have to be committed to go all the way.
Yeah.
And the problem is, talking from firsthand experience from men and women that are on the battlefields of our modern day warfare, which is here in the States.
Yeah, I agree.
They're telling me like, hey, there's all these people. They said, no, I'm not doing it. They got the first reprimand, and then they buckle when the sergeant major comes in there and berates them, or this lieutenant commander or lieutenant colonel comes in and just fear mongers them. Yeah. And the problem is, when it comes to your belief and what you feel inside your soul, you have to be committed to go all in. And the problem with our men and women, they don't have enough belief in themselves. But these are the same men and women who will go overseas and fight someone else's war for whatever belief they have.
Yeah.
They will go risk their lives, but they won't stand up and fight for themselves here.
And
the thing is, what are you committed to? Because at the end of the day, you have to live with these decisions. But what people are failing to understand, especially in the military, you are not going to please the beast one time.
No.
The moment you buckle, it's going to continue to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen and happen. And my thing to people is like, do what you want to do best. But have you ever done any research outside of the TV? Yeah. Have you done any research outside of just your own niche? There's cases where people are literally having significant, severe issues, reactions to this. And the problem with any type of jab is we are not all created. We're created equal as free, sovereign souls of this earth, but we're not all created equal inside.
Yeah.
Our parents might have done something, we might be allergic to something. Something could have happened in childbirth. So not everything works for everybody. And that's the problem when it comes to mandatory anything. Not everyone is chemically designed the same way because of whatever happened.
It might have. I just did a podcast. I don't know if you caught it. The 004 with Dr. Nadolsky, and he took the jab, and he was fine. But I know a lot of people that haven't. You know what I mean? And so like he might be fine, but if I take it, I might go into cardiac arrest. I mean, who knows?
Well, you got to think about this too. I mean, never in our history has the entire world stopped.
Right.
Never in the history of man has the entire world stopped. And you have yet to see a massive pileup on the streets. You have yet to see people just dying dead in their cars. You have yet to see the news show you pile up in the hospital.
Yeah. Now, if that was the truth, then everyone would be like, well, we all have to band together. But that's simply not happening. That never did happen, and that's the reason why there's so much controversy behind this whole thing. So when you get a guy, and that's the biggest thing is, you're going to have to make, and I look at it, the way I look at this is like, you have to look at it for any other, you look at the military like any other company, right? Does that company's values align with your own, right? Hopefully I didn't lose them. Does that company's values align with your own? And if it does, then you're good. But if being forced to take, some juice that you don't believe in, well, then that company's values no longer mesh with your own, and maybe that's not a place for you to be.
Absolutely. I mean, and like you talked about these exemptions, I'm like, people have been using those forever. They're written into the system specifically for this.
Yeah.
The problem with anything UCMJ, the problem with anything military doctrine is it's all that fine print. And the fine print, what it really says when it boils down to it, it says it's going to take everything you've got to push this envelope.
Yeah.
It's going to take you saying no and getting punched in the face to get what you want. Dude, I remember when you and I were still in the same time together. I remember the whole jump pay debacle happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they were checking everyone's pay.
Yeah.
Dude, I went to the general of MARSOC to get my pay to fight for myself. And everyone's like, oh, don't do it. Buckle. And all my friends buckled except for me. I'm just like, I'm not a bitch. Like, you have to be committed because
I've got tons of stories in that. But the thing is, if you're gonna do that, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences. And I had to suffer the consequences when I went out there and I said, hey, this is wrong or this needs to be fixed. And you know as well as I do, like I got beat for it. They beat me down for it, but I stood there. I took it. It was the right thing to do, and I took it. Now, granted, these is a little bit different. Now you're going to be like, probably you're going to be out. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you truly believe this, then this is something you have to stand for. You got to be willing to take it all the way. And that's what I think, talking to another guy that I roll with, their company is kind of pushing this whole thing, same thing as well. And he's basically pushing it to the end. And what he said was right now there's about 20, 30% that are in noncompliance. He thinks that that number will get, like, people will talk shit essentially until right at the end. And then he said there's probably a good portion of them that will buckle. And then the rest of them will just be out of a job.
But that's history.
Yeah.
History repeats itself until people decide to rewrite history.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people feel like they're trapped in their decision making, but they're not. Especially these military members, they feel so pigeonholed into, I want to serve my country. I have this dream. But you understand that. What if you broke your leg and you got disqualified? What would you do then? What happens when you do 30 years and you get out? Why are you setting yourself up for failure right now with this mentality of roboticness?
That's the only thing that you can do, or whatever. Yeah.
People are worried about money. They're worried. People stay in the military for comfort. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
People stay. They want this because it's comfort. They pay. Your family's taken care of. It's whatever. All these different things, right? It's like this this vortex that sucks you in. And once you decide to re-enlist once, and then you're like, I'll do it again.
Or like us.
In the back of your mind, you're thinking,
times.
yeah. I mean, and honestly, I was the same way. Oh, I want my retirement. I want my disability. I want all these things. But I'm like, wait a second. I can go make money as a civilian. I can go there's so many endless things in life. And the thing is, like, if you want to serve your country proudly. But if you're only going to serve your country by not being proud of who you are, looking yourself in the mirror and being disgusted with your decisions, that's not serving anything. And at the end of the day, you cannot serve your country until you serve yourself. Yeah. Because if this is empty inside, all your work is empty. And you are just a vessel and you are...
That's my point with it is like, hey, listen, if this is not a big deal for you, guess what? And you really you still want to serve, guess what, dude? You're still going to you're going to go. I was talking to one of our kids that did USMC prep. We prepped him to go into the Marine Corps. He did phenomenal, got jacked and ripped. He's a stud. He's in sniper school right now. He hit me up. He's like, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And that's the thing is like you can still do all those cool things. Like if you want to serve and you want to go ride motorcycles out of the back of helicopters, go jump out of, things and go, dive through, dive in the ocean and do all the cool shit that Cody and I did. That is all still there. You will still be able to do that. You just have to understand that there is going to be a cost associated with it. And there always was. This is just an extra cost, but those things are all still there. You can still live that dream. You can still do that thing, but you just have to if that's a sticking point for you, then like what Cody said,
unintended,
then you have to figure out, you have to look in the mirror and go, hey, where am I at my beliefs? If this is a core belief, if this is one of my priorities in my life, then how much is it worth, falling on?
I mean, when you think about the chances of getting injured or sick or, spreading something to your family, that, not everyone is in that type of mental capacity to look at life in that type of perspective.
Yeah.
We only
especially
really look
18,
at face value.
18 or 19 years old, of course, right?
And I feel for those 18, 19 years old. I mean, dude, look at the dumb stuff that we did. We're like, okay, right. Whatever you say, boss,
right.
And that's okay. You don't know what you don't know. But now we live in a world of technology. There was no internet when you and I joined. Well, actually there was.
There was
internet.
But who was on it?
Yeah, not me.
Not me, yeah.
I got 10 minutes for a page to load. What is it, hot or not?
Yeah.
My MySpace. But we live in an information age now. There's so much information, and the problem with the military specifically, it's like, do as I say. What I speak is truth, and that's simply not the case. Half the people that are leaders in the military have no backbone or spine, and that's not a knock on the military. That's a knock on comfort, because comfort will comply. Because when you value your life and your men and women that you serve more than you value your comfort, you will always do the right thing. But when you value comfort over your pride, your beliefs and your morals and your values, you're going to buckle. And when you do that, you're going to take everyone down on the ship with you. And that simply is poor leadership. And instead of these leaders, stiff arming these young men and women, giving them ultimatums, the sheer fact is why aren't they encouraging, like, hey man, do your research. I'm here to support you as your commander, as your leader, as your boss, as your mentor, but understand this, do what you feel is right, and I will support you either way. However, understand there's consequences for all of our actions. That's a completely different conversation that I don't think is really happening with people. I've been shown videos. I've even been told, hey man, I'm recording half these conversations. My friends, especially the SF community, the soft community, they are being threatened.
Yeah.
Literally like, hey, I know you only got a couple months left in the military, but you need to do this. And I found out that you signed the first paperwork. I'm just like, why are we trying to get everyone to do what the system says, but what's best for them?
Right.
At the end of the day, the Marine Corps, the military is none of them people are going to be there at your deathbed. Maybe a few of your friends, but the institution is not going to. So why do we continue to be so blind to the system? Why don't we bring back a pulse to our own life and be like, you know what?
Well, I mean, and that's when exactly, and that's when it comes down to it. Like even, and I pulled it up. I just want to make sure it was right. But even in Marine Corps Doctrine 1, Warfighting, it talks about leadership and it talks about asking questions and questioning your leaders. And that's saying that's not a bad thing. It says it in there. Even the Marine Corps, believe it or not, which the Marine Corps is always like, do as I say. Yeah. But in their own book, it says there's nothing wrong with questioning leadership, and it actually makes better leaders that way. Now, granted, this was probably written, I don't know when it was written, but it was written quite a long time ago, and that particular portion was probably written, it was first published in 1989. A different world. 1989 compared to now is a different world and a different probably perspective of leadership. But I think that it's a good thing to question. It's a good thing.
Absolutely.
But
you should always question everything.
Yeah. I mean, as a leader, as a company ops chief, as a team chief, did you ever get questioned on your decisions, and how did you take it?
When I was beginning to become a leader, as a young leader, obviously I felt offensive because that's a new thing. You're like, I'm the leader because at least me, I can only act on what I saw.
Yeah.
Right. From the good leaders and bad leaders, that's the only way I knew how to do business until I got experience. I failed, made mistakes, and I grew up as a leader. But one thing I noticed throughout my career that I noticed with other leaders is most leaders aren't there for the people. Most leaders are there for the position, the title, and the power that comes with that position. And
I think that's shown pretty quick. Like when you walk into a situation, it's very clear which type of leader that you have, right?
Man, I remember being at the schoolhouse and there was a Marine there. I'm right before I retired. There was a Marine there. He was like not taking the flu shot, and he wasn't about it. And I'm like, one of his peers, what's his name? But one of his peers comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, so and so's not taking it." I'm like, "Who gives a fuck?" I'm like, "I'm not taking it."
Squirt that.
And he's like, "But he has to." I'm like, get over it, dude. I'm like, why are we trying to cutthroat our own people? Why can't we ever support people?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why can't we ever just be there for our, what we call brothers and sisters? You're not doing what the system said. You're wrong. But we're in an environment where you're literally encouraged to think outside the said box, where you're paid to be different thinkers. You're paid to question things. That's why we're paid extra in special operations. A, the risk that we do, the training that we do, but B, the way that we train our minds and our bodies.
And if you look at it from a selection standpoint, which I was a cadre at selection for, I think a class or two classes. And that's a big portion on the psychologically side is like, can this person be rational? Can he think? Can he think outside the box? Can he ask questions? These are things that they're searching for. They're not looking for robots. They're looking for people who can solve problems. And to solve problems, you have to think and you have to question. So, man, it's a sad situation to see these people in this situation have to deal with this, and not only just military, but nurses. A good friend of mine who also a BJJ guy who kicked my ass up in Montana. He just got laid off. and he served his country in the military. He's actually the I guess the creator and CEO of VetWad. You've probably heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah. So he served his country. Then he wants to serve his veteran community, and then he wants to serve his community by being a nurse. And they're like, "Nah, bro, we're good." And the only thing that I think is like, man, it's not only does he'll be fine. And we had that conversation. He will be fine. He suffers because obviously he wanted to serve in that capacity, and they're not allowing him to. But you know who really suffers is the community, because now you don't have this individual, this guy who is the cream of the crop, who actually gives a shit about the community, because he's constantly serving his whole life, and now they can't, and that's happening on a national aspect. And this is what concerns me. So like, if you want to serve, it's your choice, but at the end of the day, if you start removing anyone who questions the system, right, then what are you left with?
Compliant subordinates.
And then what does that look like for the rest of America when all you
it
have...
looks like a vulnerable target.
Right.
The thing about America, think about our military, screw everything else around the world. I don't believe half our media anyway, right? You can't even go to the Weather Channel without hearing something like terrible happening.
Well,
a tornado destroyed everything.
Right. Well, you and I have been involved in investigations where something hit AP News before we got back to so we know that this most of it's all bullshit, right? You get back to your base and you're like, True. These guys killed all these people, and we're like, but I was literally just there 5 minutes ago. None of that happened, So, anyways, so we know that could be twisted.
And it's super hard, and it's super hard too, because any of these men and women in the military, or any job really, they can just simply look outside and look at everything and be like, why do they offer me a donut?
Right.
Why do they offer me unhealthy poison food to talk about my health?
If it was truly a health thing, why was all the fast food open 24/7? The gym shut down? Yeah, I mean that's completely.
And most importantly, why in the land of the free? Why are we enforcing? Why are we breaking every rule that we created to create a free place for men and women to be their own sovereign self?
Which is what has made this country what it is today. Like all those principles is what allowed us to become the country that we are. And you start eroding those and taking those away, we're heading to a very, very different path, and history books teach us exactly what that path is.
It's just wild.
Yeah. So to kind of sum it up, I guess this is like the worst advice ever. Sorry guys, because we really didn't. There's really nothing that you can say, and that's kind of my point. Is as I'm responding to all these messages, I'm like, God, there's not really much advice I can give, because the only person that can answer this for you is the person that you're looking in the mirror. And that's kind of what you said when you came on, is like, hey, whatever your choice is, you got to be willing to take it to the end. So if you're going to fight it in the military, fight it at, being a nurse, fight it being in law enforcement or a firefighter or whatever it is, then you have to be willing to fight it, or you have to just resign and walk away and go do something else. And I'll tell you right now, and Cody will tell you, there is life on the other side, man. There's a good life on the other side. You can be happy. You can live your dreams and do all these things without, people, mandating what you do with your life. Even though it's a shame. Yeah.
It is a shame, and I think some people too. They're like, "Well, I'm going to get discharged." I'm like, dude, you might as well just smoke pot and get a general discharge. You know what I'm saying? Like you might as well just say screw it and just get out of the military, because the thing is, you're not disobeying direct order isn't dishonorable discharge worthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I think this is what's going to happen. Even if you got out and you got other non-honorable, whatever it may be, right? Within a couple years, watch the claim process go. I mean, you can go get a lawyer, and I mean, I've got a lawyer. DM me. I'll a discharge lawyer that the military justice ones will do it as well. There's going to be a host of claims of people that are getting it switched back to honorable. It's going to happen. So if that's what you're worried about, I wouldn't be concerned about that. And then other than that, man, unless you're going to work for federal service, no one gives a shit about your discharge. There's not one person ever that's asked me for my DD-214 or my certificate. Not one of what, and I'm very successful in what I've done and built my businesses and worked with other people. And so there's a great world out there, and don't think that you're pigeonholed into anything. But if you want to serve, deal with it. If you don't, if that's a sticking point, then you just got to fucking own it and know that, I'm telling you, that Cody's telling you, there's a lot of ways to serve your community and serve this world other than being in the military.
Yep. And we can do that by standing up for what we believe in, because without belief in anything, especially belief in self, nothing is real, nothing is attainable, nothing is possible.
Yeah.
And the structure that we know to this day will continue to crumble the more men and women decide to crumble and thin. And the thing is, I really feel sad that they just don't feel strong, like they're strong enough.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know you are strong enough to have a belief and make a decision, no matter what it is. I don't care. I don't judge. That is on you, your belief, but just feel confident and feel empowered in whatever decision you make, because no matter which way you go with this, if you say, I'm not doing it, I get out, and you're not believing in it, you're going to regret it. If you're saying, screw it, I'll just do it, but you're not really believing in it and your gut and your soul is telling you differently, you're going to regret it. Yeah. So whatever you do it with love and compassion and just confidence and empowerment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Cody, well, thank you so much. I think that's that's where we ended right there. And so hey, first of all, thanks for taking time out of your day with We Defy the Norm and what you have with your wonderful wife and what you guys have going on to share this message. Hey, guys, if this is helpful, hopefully it is. If it's helpful, please screenshot it. Share it on social. Tag We Defy the Norm. Tag myself. We'll share it out there. We want people to know that across the board that there are like-minded individuals, that we are there for you. We feel you have empathy for your situation, but at the end of the day, to know that I want to empower you, that you have the courage, you have the choice for your own life, and you're in charge of your own life. You're the captain of your own ship, right?
Sure.
So thank you guys. And Cody, hopefully you get back in North Carolina and can visit your friends, I'm going to sit you in this chair and we're going to do a 2.5 to 3 hour podcast talking about everything, Cody. It's been a while and we need to catch up. So next time you're here, we're going to do the long one. It's going to be fun. All right, brother.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, man.
All right.